So welcome to our second That Thursday thing. And we had a lot of fun with our first one a couple weeks ago. And now we are back. And today, as you might have seen, and you can see from the little meme there that's on the screen right now, we are going to be doing a layout today. So that's going to be lots of fun. Thank you all for joining me. So I had lots of great comments about the last That Thursday thing, and it was exciting to think about what we were going to do together today. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited for this to be that ongoing series. Okay, well, let's get started. I'm going to switch you over right away so that we can talk about what we're going to do. As I mentioned, if you have the sunshine recipe template from Creative Memories, feel free to grab a piece of paper, even if it's a scrap piece of paper and you want to kind of just play with it as we go through this. Or if you don't, grab a cup of coffee, sit back and relax. We'll be here for about 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes. I try not to keep you too long, but I always get so chatty. And you should be able to see the sunshine recipe template as well as the couple of pieces of the Art Nouveau collection that I have here. Now, I've been lucky enough to be working with the Art Nouveau collection for a few weeks now, doing some assignments and things, and it is really pretty. I don't have much left, so I am going to be using a couple of pieces here today, but I've used a lot of the other pieces here, and some of my favorites were this beautiful floral here, and this it's kind of like a vine pattern. And if you know anything about, the Art Nouveau movement, if you know about William Morris, they were very highly decorative, but very natural looking designs. So again, lots and lots of florals, lots of botanicals, leaves, that kind of thing. So it's a beautiful collection. And it does come with a sticker pack and some embellishments. So there are lots of other goodies that you can use with it. I just don't have a ton left. So when I decided that I wanted to play with this, I realized that I was going to have to make the best use possible of the paper that I had left. So we're going to make this layout with just two pieces of paper. I'm going to use this one as my main piece that I'm going to cut up and rearrange, and then I'm going to use this piece. Now again, there's a really pretty design on the background here, and we could use that one as well, but because we're going to do some tracing, I'm going to use this piece because the back side is very neutral and my pencil lines are going to show up really well. Okay, so before we get into that, let's talk about the actual recipe template. Now I've done some blog posts, I've done some videos about using the recipe templates from Creative Memories, but basically they are a Mylar stencil, okay, made out of Mylar, very flexible, easy to wipe clean, and they can be used in so many different ways. So you see all of these different shapes here, and it almost reminds me of those kind of optical illusion pictures where you stare at it and certain shapes, certain images kind of come up the longer you stare at it. So you don't necessarily need to stare at this, but you definitely want to take a look at it and think about all of the different shapes that are here. Okay, so we've got, if you think about it, we've got some large squares. Okay, we've got 4 large squares. We've got smaller squares in the corner. You might see the overall sunshine because we've got these kind of triangles that act as rays, and then more of a circular center. But then when you start looking deeper, we could do things like almost like a chevron or an arrow. So that could be a shape. Okay, the individual triangles could be shapes, and we're going to pull out one of the shapes that I saw fairly quickly, but again, it's just each person's going to see different shapes inside the template. Now this one is very symmetrical, so it really doesn't matter, if you turn it or if you flip it, you're basically going to get the same design. But with some of the other templates, let me just see what I've got here in my drawer. So with something like the collage wreath or the frame it up, you know, when you turn it over and you rotate it, you get different types of layouts. So that is not really what's happening here. What this one really excels in is allowing you to cut out different shapes from within the overall pattern, okay? And I love that there's a couple of examples here. So you can see in this one, they've really emphasized those diamond shapes in the background. And here they've emphasized the kind of that large square with a diamond. So you can really start to almost, you know, play around with which shapes you're going to really highlight, I suppose. So I thought what we would do just really quickly is just show a couple of different ways that we could use this, okay? And I've just got a piece of white cardstock, and I'm just gonna center that. I've just put a little bit of adhesive, repositionable adhesive on the back, because we're just gonna play with this, okay? I like to use the clips to hold it all in place, but I also, with something this detailed, I like to use a little bit of repositionable adhesive. Okay, so let's just play around here. So let's just trace some shapes. So we could definitely do that idea of the circle as the focus. Whoops, circle as the focus with all of these rays around, okay? So I'm just going to trace the outsides of the triangles in this one, okay? And you can see that that will be a total sunshine, okay? So let me hold this up just a little bit. So hopefully you can see that's not gonna, okay? So you can see that you could make all of those and then have the sunshine in the middle. And again, with the circles, I don't know if you know this, but with the circles, they do correspond to the circular custom cutting system. So you could do the 4-inch circle in the center. That one in the center is 4 inches. Or you could do a 5-inch circle on that outside ring. Okay, so that's one way you could just sort of play around and have a design. Let's just do this as well. Okay, and then I really liked this idea. So I'm going to actually trace and create kind of like arrows or chevrons, because it's a completely different look depending on which pieces you trace and cut out. Okay, so you can see that that one would kind of create almost like an arrow, and then you could emphasize the square, right? So you could have a photograph there and then maybe some decorative paper, all kinds of different things. And then the other idea that I really liked was cutting banner shapes. Okay, so just 3 of those banners, and you can see that the idea that those could be banners that you would add, cut out and add, you know, almost like bunting to the corner of a page. Okay, so again, try to look at that and see what kind of shapes you can sort of pull out from the design. Okay, now when I first looked at this, it reminded me of, and I'm just going to switch my screen over here. It reminded me of an 8-point star quilt. So I don't know how I saw that. I don't know why I saw that, but that's what I started to see. So if you can just kind of think of that 8-point star quilt, and then let's come back here and look at the template. So I saw these large shapes, 8 of them, around the template, and I thought, I wonder if I can create an 8-point star quilt design. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to use this. I will tell you I already cut out some pieces, so just for the sake of kind of quickness. But again, I'm just going to tack that into the center and attach these at the corners. I find that you get a little bit better tracing. Your paper doesn't move quite as much, and it's a little easier, right? It's not moving around. That is if you get it on right the first time. Okay, so I've just got a regular pencil. You could use a mechanical pencil, but you don't want to use anything that's too sharp or too dark, because you will have to mark on this and then you will have to erase it afterwards. What we're going to do though, because we want to identify where each of the pieces go, we just want to write a little number in the corners of all, 5, 6, 7, I can't count. The corners of all of these triangular designs, okay? So that's to help us after we cut them out. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to trace all 8 of these diamond shapes, plus we're going to trace the squares in the corners, okay? So I hope you can see where I'm tracing them, and I'm going to pull one of the pieces that I cut out, okay? So this is the piece that I already cut out. That is that piece there. So that's what I'm tracing out. All 8 of these diamond shapes. Okay, now after you've traced the diamonds, you're also going to want to trace those squares in the corners. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, boy, it takes a long time. It's a different kind of cutting. It's a different kind of, process. But truly, when I did this to get all of the pieces cut out ahead of time, because I did think it was going to take quite a while, it took me about 8 minutes to trace all 8 diamonds and the 4 squares. Okay, so you get the idea about tracing. So I'll show you a couple of tips for getting this all cut out. So again, you can see that I have I have what? Almost 6. I have 5 of the designs traced out. So I'm just going to kind of show you how I would approach this after I get it all traced. So the first thing I decided to do was use my trimmer to trim off the long strips at the side. So basically I'm trimming down the side where the 2 squares meet, right? So it's almost like taking that strip off. I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. And I love this trimmer because I can look at that little tiny plastic arrow there, and line it up with my line that I've traced. So I'm going to take that off. I know I don't have everything traced here, but let's see, how big was this? Okay, so you can imagine that I'm going and taking the second strip off the side. Then I would go down and do the same on the bottom. So in that way, and then I do the same on the top. So that way I've got parts already cut out, and then all I need to do is go ahead and trim with my scissors along the other pencil lines. And again, just take your time, not in a rush. Get them all cut out. And then I just want to give you one really quick little tip. You want to make sure on the pieces that we've added the number, make sure you keep the number, but you want to just take your nice soft eraser. I like to use a white drafting eraser. These are so old, they're from my art school days. And just erase it. I have an old makeup brush that I keep handy to get rid of all of the pencil lines. Okay, so that's what you would do. And as I said, it took about 8 minutes for me to get all of the pieces cut out. Okay, So I've done that ahead of time, and now let's go ahead and play. So grab them all here. So you can see I've got all my pieces. There's a tiny little number there, just really lightly written out in pencil so that I can see where I'm going to put them. All right. You can use your template, you know, to remind you where they go. But really, we're just going to start kind of freehand placing these. There's number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And again, because I numbered them in that kind of same corner all the way around, that helps me when I come to attach them all. Okay, so you would play with this a little bit. You could definitely, you know, use a ruler to measure, or you could kind of put this on top to see if you've got them in the right spots. Okay, so you could definitely just kind of adjust everything that way. Okay, so that's our pieces. And then remember, we also cut out the squares. So I'm just going to put the squares all with the same pattern back in the corners. Okay, so now that remarkably looks like that to me. Very much that same design as the 8-point star. But again, when you start to look at these shapes here, you might start to see some different things happening. So one of the things I see is it becomes almost like that optical illusion of this becomes like a cube, looking like it's coming out of the paper. Okay, so that is kind of a fun thing to really emphasize. And you could even move these all down to the corners and really emphasize that optical illusion. Okay, I don't know if you can kind of see it. Again, it's one of those things where you have to sort of train your eyes to kind of go blurry a bit, but this looks like the side of a cube with the cube popping out from the page. So we can enhance that kind of look by just flipping over these squares. Again, there is a bit of a direction on this floral on the back. This is quite a pretty sort of look. I like that. Okay. And then remember that I told you to hang on to those strips, because you could take those strips that you cut off the sides, especially if you were, you know, you did it in the right order, and you could create something that's very different than an 8-point star, right? So you could create something like that. And really, when we look at that template, that was something, you know, that I definitely wouldn't have thought. Oops, let me put it on a piece of darker paper here. So that's definitely not something I would have seen from those pieces. Okay, but now that we've got the pieces cut out, there's so many different things that we could do with them. All right, so let's kind of put it back together in that 8-point star. And then maybe you want to do some, you know, alternating. So one of the things that I will tell you is that they're not interchangeable in terms of, if I switch this over, you see that it's not quite the same, it's not quite the same angles. So if I picked up one of these and put it on top of this, you can see that they're not purely symmetrical. Okay, so you do have to play around with it. But what I found is that if you kind of take a section, like this is number 1 and 2, and if I flip the entire section, then I can really do some, you know, some neat things. So I could flip that entire section. Again, here's 5 and 6, okay? So it would be together like that. I'm going to flip the entire section and place it back down. And then I could have some alternating patterns, okay? So I quite like that. I truthfully have not found a way to make a really nice sort of every other one alternating. I did try to do some, you know, switching and flipping, and it just never sort of comes together again perfectly. So unfortunately, if you can figure it out, I would love to hear it. But when you do start flipping these over, you don't get a perfect sort of star. Okay, you can see how the angles change. So it's up to you what you want to do, of course, but I would love to hear if you figure out how you can flip these over and make them work exactly, you know, work together in the same way. All right, so let's just put this back here. We got 8 and 7. 5 and 6 would go like this. So flip over 5 and 6. And then we've got that. So I like the look of that. I think it gives enough variety for the 8 points. And again, you could totally take these squares off and just really feature that quilt pattern in the center. But these are going to be for some photos. So photo wise, for something like this, I cut out some photo spots that would measure 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So I would put 4 small photos here. So those would be great for like little close-ups, things like that. And then, you know, I thought you could definitely put a 4x4 there. And again, once you get it all lined up, I think the edges of the 4x4 would really emphasize that sort of idea of the boxes kind of coming out. You could also put, kind of going back to what's initially in the middle of the circle. So this is a 4-inch circle. And that looks good too because it kind of breaks up all of the angles. So you could do that. And if you wanted to, you could definitely put, you know, kind of 2 4-inch square photos there. You might not want to do that. Maybe you want to emphasize again the symmetrical nature. Maybe put them off to the side a little bit. Something like that. And then maybe a title. Let's play around with some embellishments. See what I've got left. Yeah, so, you know, maybe like a title in the center or something. This one's quite a large one, so you could maybe do something like that in the center. Okay, so really it's a great way to use up one piece of double-sided paper and just, you know, experiment with all of the different shapes. There we go. Put that right in the center. Yeah, experiment with all of the different kinds of shapes that you see and just, you know, start cutting and then, you know, play around with the shapes to create a layout that, you know, you might never have expected using a template like this. And again, I think, you know, part of it is the power of suggestion. So when this is called the Sunshine recipe template, and you see, you know, the idea of a sunshine there, it's hard for your brain to make other associations, right? So, but if you can think of each one of these as being a separate piece that you can create with, you've got a whole bunch more options. So let's just see what else we could do here. So I was wondering if I could get the two. Hang on, let me put it back to the beginning. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's just try doing a slightly different one. 3, 4, 7, 5, and 6. Okay, so let's do something like that idea of the chevron. So I'm going to take these 2 middle ones and flip them over. Okay, and I'm going to create that sort of chevron look or arrow look with that. Okay, so again, that could maybe be, I don't know what you'd want to do, maybe have them all the same color. I kind of like that. That's quite striking when you have them together. And then it really emphasizes that X in the middle. And then you might want to have, you know, that round photo, and then, you know, title, and let's play with some embellishments. You know, maybe a large embellishment cluster off to the other side. So something like that, and then that's a very different look to it as well. Okay, so I think that for me, I'm going to go back to that 8-point star that I initially sort of saw, and I'm going to complete my layout that way. Don't forget too that you do have the pieces that you cut out, so you could always add in, you know, something like that along the sides. So yeah, it's so much fun to just play with something like this. Get a piece of paper, if you've got some, you know, a scrap of double-sided paper, you know, and just play with it. See what you can kind of come up with. But I think I will definitely go back to that 8-point star design that I initially showed you with the 2 4x4 photos. Okay, so I will finish that up, and then I will definitely post a photo of what my finished layout is, and then you can hopefully get some ideas and try it out yourself. Okay, so I will be sure to post that. Looking forward to seeing you again. If you have some ideas that you want to see during that Thursday thing, definitely leave that in the comment as well. If there's something you want me to tackle or show or create, we can have kind of an ongoing list as well. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks very much for joining me today, ladies. Looking forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care and have a great day. Bye for now.